Chapter 10, Lesson 5, Metric Measurement. So, metric measurement regards to meters, liters, and grams. Now, for distance, we've already gone over feet, inches, yards, and miles. That's what we usually use in the United States. Metric measurement is what they use all over the world. So we're kind of one of the rare countries that doesn't follow metric units of measure. Capacity, we use gallon person with gallons, quarts, pints, cups, ounces. In other parts of the world, they just use liters. And weight, we use ounces, pounds, and tons. And in metric measurement, we use grams. So meter, liters, and grams are used throughout metric measurement, and there's a prefix in front of them. And the prefix lets us know how big it is. For example, there's kilo, hecto, deca, deci, centi, and milli. And in order to understand kilo through milli, you have to remember our powers of 10. So if I'm starting at 1 meter, 1 liter, 1 gram, I'm starting at this area right here. This is my starting point. If I just have 1 meter, 1 liter, 1 gram. For all my other units of measure, I'm either going 10 times more or I'm going 10 times less. A kilo would be the same as our thousands place. A hecto is 100. A hecto would be the same as 100th place. The deca is the tens place. And then 1 meter, 1 liter, 1 gram would just be your ones place. Then you have deci. Deci is 1/10, kind of like our tens place. Centi, like in centimeter, is 100th, and milli is 1,000th. So we need to keep this in mind, that what we learned in previous chapters of each unit of measure is 10 times greater than the unit before it, it's the same in terms of metric measurement. So the metric units of length, 1 centimeter equals 10 milliliters, because the centi is in front of the milli. So the centi is 10 times greater than the milli. The deci is 100 times greater than the milli, because it's 10 and another 10, which is 100. 1 decimeter equals 10 centimeters, because 1 decimeter is 10 times greater than a centimeter. And for all of these, if you notice, all of these have meter. You could take out meter and put in liters. 1 centiliter equals 10 milliliters. 1 deciliter equals 10 centiliters. 1 liter equals 100 centiliters, or 1,000 milliliters. 1 kiloliter equals 100 liters. So we kind of need to keep that in mind, that this unit of measure is just with meters, but meters, liters, and grams can be used interchangeably. It's just the prefix that is in front of it. And the same thing that we've done in the past 4 chapters still apply. When I'm multiplying a larger unit to a smaller unit, I multiply. So obviously I've labeled where our smaller units are and where our larger units are. And you divide to convert a small to a large. All right, so let's look at an example. All right, I need to get rid of this little guy here. 1 second. Here's kilometers at the far left, and here's meters where my red line is. Now remember, each place is 10 times greater than the place before it. So to get from kilometers to meters, that's 1,000, because it's 10 to the first, 10 to the second, and then 10 to the third to get to my red line. Now, 6 kilometers times 1,000, I just need to move my decimal 3 places over. Now, remember, with a whole number, the decimal is after the ones place. So this is really 6 times 1,000. This is just going to equal 6,000 meters. So 6 kilometers equals 6,000 meters. And if I go back and look at my regular chart, to get from a kilometer to a regular meter, that's 1 place over, 2 placeovers, 3 placeovers. If I go 1, 2, 3. Right? So that's how we're getting the 3 places. That's how I know it's like the third power of 10 or 1,000. Now, we're going to go from a larger unit to a smaller unit. And this is the opposite for the powers of 10. So remember, for every 0, the decimal moves to the left. So when we convert a smaller unit to a larger unit, we're dividing. And when we're dividing with metric units, we're moving the decimal to the left. So in this case, I have 9 and 824 thousandths decigrams. And I want to go to grams. Now, if I go back to my chart, here's decigrams. And I want to move 1 place over to grams. So this is dividing by 10 because I'm going 1 place over to the left. So now I'm going to take 9 and 824 thousandths and I'm going to divide it by 10. Now remember the rule with powers of 10 when you're dividing with decimals. The decimal moves 1 place over to the left. So my decimal is going to move 1 place over to the left, and it's going to equal 9,824 10,000ths. We haven't learned the 4th placeholder over, but we know that it's still going to move 1 place over to the left. Now, my next problem is I have 525 milliliters and I'm going to centimeters. So if I look at my chart, I'm going to erase this from our previous problem. Now, I'm going from milliliters to centi. So that's moving 1 place over. And I'm going to a larger unit. So I'm going to divide. So in this case, I have 525 milliliters, and I'm going to divide by 10 because each place is 10 times greater than the place before it. So a centiliter is 10 times larger than a milliliter. And when I move my decimal over, there's no decimal in 525. So remember, my decimal is technically at the end of the ones place. I move it over 1 place to the left, and my product equals 52 and 5/10 centiliters. So when we think of metric units of measure, we need to remember that when you're starting from a larger unit of measure and you're going to the smaller units of measure, I'm looking at the red, each place is 10 times greater than a place in front of it. So if I'm at meters and I'm going to centi, I'm going to times by 100 because there's 2 powers of 10, the deci and the centi. That's 2 jumps I have to make. So it's kind of like 10 squared. That's 100. And that's why centi is 100. If I was going from meters, liters, grams, this is just like if it was 1 meter, 1 liter, 1 gram, or 6 meters, 6 liters, 6 grams. Like you were just starting with that base unit before the prefixes are added to the word. That's how you determine how many jumps you make. Or if I was at 2 hectograms and I wanted to go to decigrams. Well, if I was at 2 hectograms and I wanted to go to a decigram, how many jumps is that? Well, that's 1, so that's 10. That's 100 because that's 10 squared. And then I have another 10, that's 1,000. So I would have to go from 2 hectograms, I would have to times this by 1,000, and that would equal 2,000 decigrams. And the opposite would be true if I were converting from a smaller unit of measure to a larger unit of measure. If I was at 3 centimeters and I wanted to go to a decameter, so I wanted to go from 3 centimeters to a decameter. I want to go to 3 centimeters to a dam. I'm going to just erase my green real quick so that I can show the next example. I'm broken that off. All right. So if I was at 3 centimeters and I wanted to go to a decagram or a decameter, let's count how many powers of 10 that is. I'm at centimeters. I'm going to go 1 power of 10, another power of 10, so that's already 100, to this power of 10, that's 1,000 because I made 3 jumps, right? That's like 3 powers of 10 because each place is 10 times greater than the place in front of it. So in this case, I'm going to take 3 centimeters and I'm going to have to divide by 1,000. And in this case, there's no decimal, so my decimal is behind the ones place. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3 before I add my decimal and put a placeholder. So this equals a placeholder and then 3 decameters. So 3 centimeters equals 3,000th decameters. So you have to remember our powers of 10 and what they mean. And just remember that it's not just like 10, 20, 30. It's timesing by 10. So it's 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000. But most of your problems will only be either a 10 or a 100 jump. A few of them would rarely go to a 1,000th jump. And if they do, they would probably start at a whole number, like this 3 centimeters to a decameter, because you only know up through a 1,000th in terms of decimals. So keep that in mind as well. You're going to do 10.5 of Think Central, and then you're going to do 10.5 homework page. Make sure you copy these notes into your notebook.